so wonderful to see all of this feel all this enthusiasm. Just a quick moment. As I was sitting here listening to Victoria's absolutely fabulous presentation and thought to you, and I'm thinking to myself, I love Democrats. They're so nice. You're so good and spirited and everything. So I want you to think of me as like the Lincoln Project of all of this. I'm the Republican who does the trench fighting kind of person. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm a former Navy JAG. I worked for the EPA briefly. I was counsel with Senator Pete Domenici. Then I was a counsel on the Senate Energy Committee under Frank Murkowski, who kind of turned out to be sort of practice Trump as it would happen. And then I was in the Bush administration, the George W. Bush administration, and I managed to become an acting assistant secretary of the Air Force for something called Installations, Environment, and Logistics. And I want to tell you that because you can probably imagine how much air, land, and water the United States Department of Defense owns and controls and requires. And I learned something very important in that last job of mine after working for EPA and after working as a so-called regulator and working in the regulatory arena. And what we came to find out in the Department of Defense, because what are we? We're the Army, we're the Navy, and we're the Air Force. And all of a sudden, we had something called encroachment. We had literally run out of enough land and air and water to operate. There was nothing external, there was nothing regulatory, there was nothing. It was just a matter of molecules. It wasn't morality, it was molecules. There simply weren't enough molecules. There wasn't enough molecular capacity in the air to take everything everybody was spewing out, or in the water. There wasn't enough setback, there wasn't enough distance, there wasn't enough air space. You had to make no-fly zones. Air, land, and water are operational assets. I mean, this was kind of revelatory for all of us who had sort of relegated all of this to a kind of after the fact, oh, well, let me go see over here if I'm going to have an impact. Well, what are you going to do, hurt its feelings? You're not going to have an impact. You are going to use a static, non-replaceable amount of air or land or water or all three to do whatever operational process it is you're going to do. Now, this is not unique to the Department of Defense. It applies to every single solitary entity in the world. Why do the Koch brothers do what they do? Because they want air and water of unlimited supplies available to them for their operations. That's why they try to finagle air and water controls or lack thereof as hard as they do, right? That's what is going on. Geocapital, as I like to call it, and I was practically ready to get out my umbrella and be Mary Poppins and say my work is done here, when Jack gave that introduction, because that's really what I hope we can all come away from this with and band together throughout the city and know and understand. Land use planning is just one geocapital component. That's the one the municipalities control, but water and air are co-equal, co-important, co-critical, and the city doesn't control those. The federal government preempted water and air controls 50 years ago with the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, and they're not allowed to take your land, your air, and your water and use it or transfer it to private sector entities for their use for profit-making operations. You can't build a habitation factory and automatically assume you're gonna get all the capacity you need to discharge whatever comes out the back end of that habitation factory, right? What's different between a 70-story tower and a coal plant, right? So, nobody's against towers or residences or anything. The issue is, if we really are gonna get serious in New York City about taking on a highly corrupt, what's a good word that I can say?
Greedy?
In case somebody's filming this. A rigged system, there's a good one. Who says that all the time? If you're gonna take this on, you have to fight in the trenches where you can win. You have to pick the battles where you have other allies, where you have other mechanics, where you have other laws, where you have systems that you can win with. So one of the things it has really been truly my pleasure to work with the Voice of Gowanus on, and this is a follow-on to Two Bridges. I worked on the Two Bridges case. We made it through initially anyway. We won our case, at least originally, saying that you falsely expropriated the air and the water from that community, and we got a judge to agree with us. You know, the Court of Appeals in New York is the Court of Appeals in New York. So I am thoroughly encouraged by the Gowanus case, because frankly, harnessing the complexity of Gowanus is going to inure, I believe, truly to the benefit of the entire city. So you have my commendation, you have my undying fealty, you have my respect, because getting your arms around Gowanus, it's a Superfund site, it's CSOs, it's sewer backups, it's airshed emissions, it's a lot of geocapital, you know, crazy, but it's worth the effort. You all have taken the time. You've really worked hard on all of this. It's going to be worth the effort. Richard Lippis is working on your basic Article 78 kind of materials now for the ULURP, EIS, you know, and believe me, this is serious fraud. I mean, the idea that they lie in every one of these EISs every time. The rainfall rates, the number of people that they expect to come, the failure to do cumulative impact analysis. I mean, over and over and over again, I've watched it in every EIS I've worked on. They tell the same falsehoods. And we ought to talk about it as fraud in the inducement. That's what it is. It's fraud in the inducement. That's the better term for it. They tell the community all these false and fraudulent things, and they induce the community to agree with these rezonings. It's kind of frightening when you think about it. And then these points of agreement are also fraud in the inducement, because they are totally unenforceable agreements spun out of nothingness. Cotton candy has more substance than these agreements. So we can see the pattern, we can see it over and over again. Breaking that pattern, I think, may be the secret to cracking this. I hope it is. We've had some successes. Even MTOP won a small case over on Fifth Avenue regarding the failure to do proper sewage analysis and an EIS. All of these small victories, all of these incremental victories are leading us where we need to go. And you all, you know, you're all so special because of this. You are the kind of community that can get its head around this. You've taken the time, everybody's put in the effort. It's really admirable to watch. It makes me feel good to do it. And we all want to pull together this. It's sustainability, it's climate change, it's lots of things, but basically it's treating the planet like it's an asset. Yeah. I'll share with you. I have this secret fantasy that I'm going to go on Morning Joe one day, and I'm going to be able to turn to Mika Brzezinski, and I'm going to be able to say, "Well, Mika, we need a Know Your Value program for the planet." Yeah. It's not just women. It's the planet needs to know its value, and we have to tell it. So it's the same kind of thing. And if the city keeps stealing the air and water capacities from neighborhoods and giving it away, we're going to wind up in this problem every single time. And Greenpoint is clearly a place where it happened. Two Bridges is a place where it happened. They take your air space, they take your air shed, they take your water supply, they take your water discharge carrying capacity, they take your viewscapes, they take your recreation, water recreation, they take it all because their load factors displace your ability to use it.